On today's show, the San Diego Padres bounce back with a Game 2 victory, pushing the series to a final decisive Game 3 wildcard showdown. Talking about Dylan Cease coming through, Mike Shildt's great decisions, Manny Machado finally showing up in the postseason, and of course, talking about tomorrow's game. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Thursday, October 2nd. As always, I'm your host with sometimes, occasionally, but certainly not always the most, Javier Reyes, and I've been covering this team for nearly 6 years now, not just for this podcast, but various other outlets across a bunch of other platforms, including Just Baseball Media, chief among them. Today's episode, guys, is brought to you by me, Javier, and his happiness. That's right, no title sponsor. Just really happy after a Game 2 victory by the Padres, stepping up in a big way, especially the pitching staff. We're going to talk all about it, talk about some of the decisions, some of the highlights of it, giving only my perspective on it. No guest today, just me. But don't worry, there will be a guest for Friday's show, Karthik Venkatraman of CBS 8 Sports San Diego. He will be joining because we're not breaking up the fun Friday. I mean, come on, guys. We have to keep the trend going of having a guest on Friday's show. So that should be a lot of fun, just recapping and reacting in a very fan-based way, I think, on Friday with whatever happens. But let's first talk about the game. The Padres won 3-0, and you have to start with Dylan Cease. This was the biggest decision, right? This was the thing we were talking about. He has been really, in a lot of ways, one of the most controversial figures for the Padres this year. And I don't even think controversial is the right word. Just one of the more miserable storylines for the Padres this year. Contract year pitcher, a guy who was top 10 in Cy Young voting last year, a guy who's got all the strikeouts in the world. He's got good peripherals. He's the rotation had a lot of injuries and he just didn't step up. But what had we seen? And we talked about this on the show. What had we seen for the past month from Dylan Cease? Not amazing starts, but certainly starts that you can live with. Starts that were like what he looked like last year when he was just going through an stretch, right? When he wasn't having those 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, no runs type of outings. He was having outings like he had in September, right? 5 innings, 2 earned runs, 6 Ks. Stuff like that, like decent, okay starts that you certainly can win with, especially if you're the Padres and their bullpen. And that's what happened today. And I think that while there might be some people saying, you know what, why'd you pull him, man? It was only 3 2/3. I actually think Shildt did a masterclass of managing this game in particular, right? He takes out Dylan Cease, but Cease, it's not because he was performing poorly. 3 2/3 only allows 3 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, and 5 Ks. This is by far, and I mean by far, the best postseason outing of Dylan Cease's career, which is a little sad. Let's just be honest. But if you actually look back, I'm not just talking about last year either, right? This is a guy who basically his entire career has like a 16 ERA in the postseason. He's been very, very bad. Specifically a 12.91 ERA, right? Last year, he only goes 1 2/3 of the decisive, not decisive, but the game 4, right? Then he only goes 3 1/3 and gives up 5 runs against the Dodgers. He went 1 2/3. He only went 1 inning the year before that in 2020. This year, though, I just think that he looked really sharp. He got a lot of whiffs when he needed to. Sometimes batters got away from him. He gave up a couple hard hit balls that ended up not going anywhere, which is great. But he did have a couple moments where you're like, oh no, is Dylan Cease about to blow it? But 9 whiffs on his slider is the big number I want to point to on 12 swings. The slider was working. And when the slider's working, he's a guy that can rack up strikeouts pretty easily, I think. And that's what happened, right? But he did give some hard hit stuff. 92 miles per hour, 90 miles per hour. Not like he generated only soft contact, which is okay. That's always been the pitcher that he is. But just great. I cannot emphasize enough how big this was for Dylan Cease. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like when you saw him, like the guys on the mound, like patting him on the back and he's just nodding his head, it feels like there was almost like an understanding, like a silent, or maybe they were talking, I don't know what they were saying to each other, right? The players. But like this understanding that they're all like, we know you've been struggling this year. Do not be down on yourself that we pulled you after 3 2/3. You were awesome today, and this is what we needed you to do. Right? They needed him to just go 3 innings, not give up any hard hits. And don't get me wrong, he does give up 1, the double that he allows, right? In that 4th inning. after getting the 2 outs, and that's when they pulled him, and I'm all for it, right? If you were someone who's listening to the show that did not like that they had Dylan Cease pitching game 2, then you can't also be someone who's like, wait, Shildt, why'd you take him out, right? I actually had someone who texted me during the course of the game where they were like, Kevin Cash ruined the sport. For those who don't know, that's a reference to the Blake Snell infamous World Series pull when he was killing the Dodgers. They took him out and put in literally one of their worst relievers, and everyone's like, this algebra and math is ruining the sport. I do not think that's what was happening here. If you are a Padres fan and have been watching the team all this year, you know that he has always looked on through 2 1/3, not 2 1/3, like usually 2 2/3, 3 innings. It's very routine that he's already got like 5-6 strikeouts. He looks like this all the time. And then you see the double and it's like, I've seen this music before, right? I've not seen the music before. I've heard this music before. I love that Shildt pulled him out and put in Morejon, who's amped and looking awesome. As we joke about on this show, he is the most nervous looking pitcher who doesn't need to be this nervous that I've ever seen in my life. He always looks like he's perspiring all over the place. He's super, super pumped. He actually goes 2 1/3 in this one, getting a strikeout, no hits allowed. And in fact, the entire bullpen shuts things down the same way they kind of did yesterday. Only 1 hit allowed between AJ Morejon, Mason Miller, and Robert Suarez. And Mason Miller actually got 5 outs in this one, all by way of the K. We wish we had Don Orsillo on the call, obviously, to be able to do that. But excellent, excellent stuff. I think all around from the Padres pitching. This is what they needed. And in my opinion, I would not be shocked if Mason Miller is still available, maybe for a couple outs, maybe for just a little bit in today's game, right? Like, I would not be surprised whatsoever if they still use him. Robert Suarez will be there, right? I think Morejon, I could see them using anybody. It's possible they might have to just use Estrada, right? And that might be unfortunate, right? But one thing that's really, really great about the Padres, guys, is that they have been here before. Well, this Cubs team hasn't been. We talked about this on the Tuesday crossover with my guy Sam Olber. This is a Cubs team that is not as familiar and has not been in the postseason as much. And sometimes when you have these guys, these star level players, like even your Xander Bogaerts, right? When you have them in your lineup, you have a little bit of an advantage sometimes. Just knowing that you've been there before, you've just been in close games and you've done it before. And I think that does matter at least a little bit. And we at least saw that yesterday. It was one of the differences. Right? Like the Padres everyone was so negative on them yesterday. And here we are. We're going to a game 3. And I'm going to tell you why exactly I think the Padres could potentially be in pole position. Hold on. What's the word? In the front position. There's a term I'm looking for right now. I can't think of it. But why they are in the driver's seat for this game 3. And also, we got to talk about Manny Man potentially slaying the narrative. Potentially. Let's talk about it. But first, let's talk about one of our sponsors, and that is our friends over at FanDuel, ladies and gentlemen. Here's what I love about FanDuel. When you're watching football and you want some extra action, they've got everything for you. You could put down $5 on parlays, player props, live games, certain player touchdowns, a certain point of touchdowns, certain yardage totals, over-unders, whatever you want. And right now, on top of all that, because you know that you're going to have every type of bet you want, right now, new customers for FanDuel, they can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So, my friends, my Friar Faithful friends, what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app and get started today. And just like that, everybody, we are back here, the Locked On Padres podcast, thriving and vibing. Be sure to also check out the postcast, which I will be on today as well after the game. Whether we're being upset or joyous, you'll have to tune in to find out. But let's talk a little bit more about other things that happened in this game. Because, again, the MVP of the day is the pitching. Amazing stuff. And the Cubs potentially having their own management questions, right? Should Craig Counsell have made different decisions? Should he have actually used Imanaga, their starting pitcher, to start the game instead of Andrew Kittredge, who does give up a run? Granted, it was small ball by the Padres, but even still. In this game, though, Tatis, I forgot to mention, they bring in Robert Suarez in the bottom of the 8th inning to get the last out and then go 3 for the final inning. And Tatis makes a really, really nice catch. It did not have the highest expected batting average of the world, about 470, right? And what I'm saying about that is that it's not like this was like one of the catches of the year, but him being out there for that outfield, man, that speed, it's just so nice that even when Tatis isn't doing superhuman, Superman, full Avengers throttle type of things where he's hitting home runs into the moon like he was doing last year, it's so cool that he can contribute in so many other ways, defense being one of them, and also just on base stuff. He started off the game with the single. Right? He had a stolen base in the game. He had a walk. He's able to contribute even when the power isn't always there. So you love to see that. Also, 2 for 3 day from Arise and a stolen base. Like, Arise has looked a little bit better. I give him some shout out. Jackson Merrill, not much for him. He does get the sac fly, like I said. Xander Bogaerts 1 for 4 game for him. A little bit of a questionable strike call with him in his second at bat, I believe it was. So gonna give him a little bit of a break there. Ryan O'Hearn goes 1 for 3 with a walk in this one, so still managed to get on base despite that man Dansby Swanson robbing him the other day. But that's basically it. Oh wait, no, that's of course Manny Machado. Did Craig Counsell make a mistake not walking Manny Machado? I don't know. I feel like you should go tune into Locked On Cubs. I imagine they're going to be talking about that. Me personally, I just think it's easy to second guess manager decisions, but with an open base, with Jackson Merrill coming up, he's more of a line drive hitter. Maybe they didn't think that they'd be able to generate the ground ball. And instead, Manny Machado absolutely freaking smokes this pitch from Shota Imanaga into the seats. And I don't think there's any player that you remind. He's so good at reminding you why you love him. It's the numbers. It's what he does on the field. It's those beautiful throws from third base to first base. But for Manny Machado, the swagger that he has when he's on is really intoxicating. It's not this pretty, antiseptic view or way either, right? Like, this is a guy who will pump his chest. He's not this, like, humble pie guy necessarily. I like it sometimes when you see, if he swings and misses at a pitch, he looks at the pitcher, but he just does, like, a nod, like, okay. Not bad. You got me. Like, I love when he does that. It's just so much fun. And for it to be on the first pitch in this one, 104.4 miles per hour off the bat, 32-degree launch angle, 404 feet. He just blasted it, and you knew it immediately. And this was a big hit for Manny. I've alluded to this before, but I talk about a lot how, like, Aaron Judge being a playoff, like, choker is, like, one of the more popular internet takes and theories you'll see in the discourse, when in reality he's just had 2 bad postseasons. Manny Machado was the one. 677 career OPS in the postseason. And look, guys, it's a short sample size. I understand that. The baseball playoffs are not a lot of games. So you could be an MVP player like, say, Aaron Judge last year, like, say, Ronald Acuna Jr. the year before. Remember when he stole 70 bases or whatever? And hit 40 home runs, and you could do nothing, and that doesn't mean that your season is a moot point. It doesn't mean it stinks. You might have just had like 5 bad at bats, right? Like, that's the whole thing with the playoffs. That being said, for a guy who is probably a Hall of Fame player, right? He's certainly gonna be a Padres Hall of Fame player. And what happens? He hasn't produced in the postseason. So a moment like that, he just needs it. He needs it, and he did deliver, and that's all the Padres needed because of this bullpen. And it's awesome-tacular to see. I really, like, I was, like, happy. I was just so happy. And again, the swagger, seeing him beat his chest on the side, I love it when you see Manny on, man. There's just something about it that reminds you, like, yeah, he's our dog. You know what I mean? He's our kind of dog guy and whatnot. He's talking in the clubhouse. He has such a charm to him, too. He's been doing this for a long time. He's a veteran. Like, they ask him, are you okay? You slid into thing? He's like, oh, yeah, everything's sore. But no, I'm good. You know what I mean? I doubt if he was hurt that he was going to say anything there, but it's just, he's so magnetic sometimes in his own way. So shout out to Manny Machado, a huge hit for him. And in general, I just think I want to emphasize that this Padres offense, that it was the reason why, if you watch the crossover I did with Sam Wilbur of Locked On Cubs, go check it out on Tuesday if you just want to see how what we said has panned out. One of the reasons that I picked the Cubs is because I just didn't trust the Padres offense, and they were at Wrigley. And I thought that would play a factor. Like, this sunshade thing is very, very odd. Like, where you've got half the field that's lit up. That must be weird for opposing pitchers and batters especially. I've always wondered how they handled that. But I didn't trust the offense because I just felt like they weren't going to be able to get the 1 or 2 big hits that they really need necessarily. And yeah, they're good at drawing your walks and your singles, but they're very bad at slugging, having that big RBI double, having the big home run. And they did yesterday, but it's also worth noting that they were like 1 for 12 again. with runners in scoring position. Does that mean that maybe we'll see a regression to the mean in Game 3? Maybe. But I will say, to maybe put a downer on this episode, I'm still just going to stick by my prediction that I said. Right? I don't want to, but I just want to be truthful. And I want to be like, you know what? I did say the Cubs win this series. I also said that the Padres would miss the playoffs. So guys, don't be too down right now. I know, don't touch that dial. Don't change off the episode. The Padres made the playoffs, so maybe me predicting against them has actually been the best thing that's ever happened. And this isn't a reverse jinx thing. I really did think that they were going to lose the series, and I really did think that they were going to miss the playoffs. And I'm happy to be proven wrong. But I think that the big thing for tomorrow, they have to show up with the offense again. This series is not over. I know it was a nice bounce back win, but the offense has to show up. We need Merrill. We need Tatis. We need a rise. O'Hearn's been swinging it well. The offense did look okay yesterday, and based on the end of the regular season, there were good positive developments. Arise's plate approach was a little bit more aggressive on the ball, right? And even drawing some walks every now and then. Ryan O'Hearn was drawing walks, putting the ball in play. And by the way, he should be like 7 for 9, like in this series or whatever it would be. I don't have the at-bats in my head, but he got robbed yesterday by Dansby Swanson probably twice. Right, so there is some positive momentum for the Padres here. And I do not think that, unlike in Game 1, I do think that you could argue, now it was good defense, don't get me wrong, but the Padres were hitting the ball hard at least, and they were hitting it well, and there were good expected stats on their hits that suggest, hey, the Cubs just had some good defense, not necessarily only that the Padres offense didn't show up. It was bad, and it was worth criticizing, but it's not only that it didn't show up. And tomorrow/today, I'm recording yesterday night, not to break the illusion or anything, but we're going to have to see, man. I just think that this is a team that's been doing this a while, but man, we're going to have to see. And I will say that the Iglesias pinch hit, I imagine you guys are wondering my thoughts on that. Look, I really just, I don't, look, Big Jim of the postcast, he does more of the criticizing of Mike Shildt, so you can tune into him when he does his lives and all that stuff if you want that. But for me, I didn't love the move, but Gavin Sheets has been struggling, and Iglesias has had a couple clutch moments, but I really would rather just stick with the guy who could potentially put the ball in the seats. But I get it in that situation with first and second, unfortunately. And he also got the bat on the ball pretty okay, even though he flew out. But early the fourth inning, was a little surprised by that move. But all in all, I think Shildt killed it, and Counsell maybe killed it in the bad way, the derogatory way for the Cubs. But the big thing for why I am tempted to almost change my prediction is because of what the Padres are rolling out tomorrow versus what the Cubs are rolling out tomorrow. Let's talk about it. But first, let's talk about our friends over at the picks that are very prized, folks. That is our friends over at Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards, Saquon Barkley just rushing for a touchdown, maybe certain yardage totals, maybe interceptions, whatever you kind of want to do. You can figure it out. You just have to pick over or under. It's great. You want to pick over on the Chargers? You want to pick over on, say, Breece Hall, who I have on my fantasy team, who I really need to do good this week? You can do that too. Whatever you want. It's fantastic, guys. And the best part, they just added stacks. So if I want to ride with a player, I can select their pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. It's really, really cool. And new injury reboot feature. If your player leaves early and doesn't return, it won't count against you. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you first play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. But that's not all, folks. Let me also tell you about one of my favorite apps when it comes to getting tickets, and that is our friends over at Game Time. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live or a football game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person, but actually getting the tickets, it can be a hassle sometimes with the queues, with the login screens, the random fees that pop up at the end. That's why I like Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. And Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included. So, the price you see is the price that you pay. I love the zone deals. Pick a zone. They choose a seat in the zone. You get a discount. It's faster, cheaper, and easier. Less stressful, frankly. All the fees are included up front. It's a great app, guys. Go check it out. And when you do check it out, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, and ticket, and go! Download Game Time today. And just like that, everybody, we are back thriving and vibing here on the Locked On Padres podcast. Let's talk about Game 3, the decisive Game 3. You guys already know this, right? You already know. But it's going to be Yu Darvish, and it's going to be Jameson Taillon for the Chicago Cubs. Now, here's the thing. A lot of you might be wondering, whoa. Javi, we got this, man. Jameson Taillon? Who even is that? I will say that Jameson Taillon hasn't been like this scrub, right? Not entirely, right? But he's not exactly amazing either, right? 3.68 ERA on the season, but a FIP of 4.66. So basically, he was the definition of a back-end starter, a solid back-end starter. So with the game and series on the line, to have Yu Darvish versus Jameson Taillon makes you feel good. But it is also true that Yu Darvish is a guy that you're like, well, Javi, he has like a 5.38 ERA this year. Like, let's not act like he's the usual Yu Darvish. I understand he's great in the playoffs and he's had some really good runs, but it's still not great there. The real reason that the Padres are in, like, in my opinion, like prime position to potentially win this is still the bullpen, right? I still think that you're going to see them deploy potentially some of their best guys, even if they did throw a lot of pitches this past week, because the postseason, winner take all, got to get past the wild card. But it's also that Michael King, it turned out not using him as one of these game starters might have been the best decision that Mike Shildt made. And honestly, I think that Mike Shildt, like I've already said, my biggest issue with him is batting Luis Arraez number 2 all season. I've talked about this. That was the thing that I didn't like. It's worked out so decent. Okay, at least so far in the playoffs so far. I actually think that the real thing that Mike Shildt maybe could have gotten criticism for was bringing in Dylan Cease last year. Now, again, in the Game 4, I mean, and then he only lasted an inning on short rest, right? I actually think that this decision kind of like amends that in a lot of ways, because if you sent in Michael King, what if he's hurt? I think that there's too much of an assumption sometimes from fans that everyone's saying, look, that's our guy. Look, in theory, when he's on and when he's right, that should be the Game 1 starter for the Padres. But bottom line is it's been Pivetta all year. And bottom line is that Michael King has been a little bit shaky since coming back. He has not been like a super duper duper star. He's gotten hit hard. Yes, he gave up 2 earned runs that first start off the IL, but Tatis saved one of the home runs. Then he got lit up the game after that. Then he had a decent start after that, but he still walked 4. Right? But he did it looks like he's really still building himself up. And it's also worth remembering that last year, it took him some time to build himself up into being the ace that he was last year. Like, it did take time. He actually wasn't good at the beginning of the season. I actually remember at one point, Michael King and Joe Musgrove were like top 7 both in home runs allowed among starting pitchers. That's how much things can change over the course of a baseball season. But the fact that they can use him in this multi-inning role, and I imagine they're going to be rocking him for the next series. Maybe not Game 1, but we'll have to see. Maybe Game 1. We don't know for sure if they are able to win Game 3 is good. But to me, I remind everybody what his numbers are. He was rocking some of the lowest ERA numbers you can imagine before he joined the Yankees. Before he joined the Padres from the Yankees. I've said this stat before, but I just want to repeat. 2.6 ERA from 22 to the end of 2023, 30% strikeout rate, and the Yankees were using him as this like back end, almost piggyback starter, multi-inning reliever. So I would not be surprised if, depending on how he does, I could see a world in which Yu Darvish goes 3 and then Michael King goes 2, right? And then all of a sudden that's five innings. And then you get into bullpen land. I could see a situation in which they only give Darvish 2 and maybe Michael King 4. Whatever it is, the fact that it feels like they basically have 2 starters that they're using tomorrow, I think gives them an advantage. And for what it's worth, Yu Darvish does have good numbers in his career against the Cubs. In 6 starts, he has a 2.36 ERA, right? Like, that's pretty good. Not as much, exposure to them as maybe some other teams. Not as impressive as, say, his numbers against the Dodgers in the playoffs in his career. But I like that if Darvish is not on, which in fairness, we have not seen, right? Like, forget Michael King for a second. At least the standard numbers have been okay with him sometimes. But Darvish, it's a 5 ERA, right? Like, he hasn't been able to go deep into games. He looks like he's a little cooked, but he is a veteran, and sometimes you look at things and say, if our thing about this Padres team is, man, I don't feel great about the rotation. There are worse situations to be in if you are low on starting pitching and saying, does this old legend have a little bit left in the tank? There are worse positions to be in than that, and especially worse positions to be in when you also get to rock Michael King and you also have this good bullpen behind him too. So the Padres have that big advantage there. What I will say though, do not sleep on Jameson Taillon, and do not sleep on this Cubs bullpen. The Cubs bullpen was like 11th in ERA. They got better down the stretch. Do not totally sleep on this Cubs bullpen. It is not what it was at the beginning of the season. It's not bad, not great. The Padres have a huge advantage there, but it's not like they're facing, say, the Yankees bullpen, which was 23rd in ERA this year. They're not facing, one of those really, really porous bullpens. I don't know. I can't think of one right now, but it's not going to be a cakewalk. And I have been watching baseball long enough that the playoffs, you will sometimes have rambobs that just come in and are awesome for no reason, or guys that your team just can't hit inexplicably for some reason. Sometimes using the least talented, for some reason, it throws people off, right? Because it's the postseason and it's a little bit of a crapshoot. So that is my warning for everybody for tomorrow. But otherwise, I can't deny that the Padres have the advantage, right? And part of me is thinking regression to the mean, they have to hit with runners in scoring position at some point, right? Right? I think. You would think. So combine that with a combination of Darvish and King, they are looking pretty good. But no matter what happens, guys, again, as I always say this on the eve of any elimination game, I'm always like, look, it's been a blast covering the team this year. I'm still going to cover, obviously, even if they lose. But whatever happens, this has been a really fun team to cover. And I cannot wait to see what we see tomorrow. Because, man, we saw some amazing... If you are a pitching nerd, if you follow Pitching Ninja on Twitter /X, man, I mean, we just got some gems, man. Some of those Ks, some of those strikes from Monahan, the Ks from Miller, bottom corner of the strike zone. Good framing, by the way. Freddie Fermin, underreported thing. Some good framing on those strikeouts. He got a call potentially on top of the zone with his slider that might have been a little bit outside the zone, but he framed it really well. So give a little bit of respect to our guy Freddie Fermin, doing a good job catching and with all this mix and matching that Shilt's doing. So we're going to see how it pans out. I can't wait, guys. And tomorrow, me and Karthik of CBS 8 Sports, we're going to give you all the recap, all the vibes, maybe sorrow. It might just be us crying for 30 minutes. Who knows? But until that next time, everybody, you've been listening to the Locked On Padres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and the only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves. Remember to subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. Follow on the YouTube. Remember to we'll be going live after the game. That should be a lot of fun. And until next time, stay safe and, of course, stay faithful. My faithful homies, take care.